Ah, there you are, my dear child. Come, sit closer to the fire. These old bones feel the chill more than they used to. And tonight I have a story that needs telling. It's not an easy one, mind you. No, this is a story about pride, that dangerous, slippery thing that can turn even the sweetest heart cold as winter stone. Pour yourself some tea, settle in, and listen carefully. For what I'm about to tell you happened not so very long ago in a family much like any other. A family that learned, in the hardest way possible, that how we treat those who raised us reveals everything about who we truly are. This is the story of Margaret, a bride on her wedding day, and the moment her grandfather had to deliver justice that would change her life forever. Margaret's mother, Helen, was what folks used to call good people. She wasn't wealthy, never had been. After Margaret's father passed when the girl was only 7 years old, Helen worked herself nearly to the bone raising that child alone. She cleaned houses during the day, took in sewing at night, and never, not once, complained about the weight of it all. I watched her, you see. Helen was my daughter, and I saw how she skipped meals so Margaret could have seconds. I saw how she wore the same threadbare coat for 15 winters, while Margaret always had new school clothes. I saw how she worked double shifts to pay for Margaret's college, her graduation dress, her first car. And Margaret? Oh, she was bright enough, I'll give her that. Got herself a fine education, landed a good job at one of those fancy companies in the city. Started wearing expensive clothes, carrying designer handbags, dining at restaurants where a single meal cost more than her mother earned in a week. Then she met Richard, a wealthy young man from one of the city's prominent families. Old money, as they say. Country clubs, charity galas, summer homes. Everything Margaret had ever dreamed of when she was a girl reading fairy tales by candlelight while her mother sewed late into the night. When Richard proposed, Margaret was over the moon. The wedding was to be grand, no expense spared. Richard's family was paying for most of it, of course. 200 guests, an elegant ballroom, imported flowers, a 5-tier cake, a string quartet, the works. But as the wedding day approached, I noticed something troubling in my granddaughter. Something cold had crept into her eyes. She began to speak differently about her mother, dismissively, as though Helen were an embarrassing relic from a past she wished to forget. 3 weeks before the wedding, Margaret came to visit. I was sitting right here in this very chair when I heard her on the telephone with one of her bridesmaids. "Mother's being impossible about everything," she said, her voice sharp with irritation. "She doesn't understand the world I'm marrying into. She showed me a dress she bought for the wedding, can you imagine? From a department store clearance rack. I nearly died of embarrassment. I told her she absolutely cannot wear that. Richard's mother would be horrified." My heart sank hearing those words. I called Margaret over after she hung up. "Child," I said, "that woman worked her fingers raw so you could have opportunities she never had. Don't you think you're being a bit harsh?" Margaret kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt automatic rather than affectionate, and said, "Grandpa, you don't understand. This wedding is important. Richard's family has standards. I can't have Mother looking like she just walked off the farm. Your mother deserves respect," I told her firmly. "Not because of what she wears, but because of what she sacrificed. Don't forget where you came from, Margaret." She smiled that new smile of hers, thin and polished, and said, "I haven't forgotten, Grandpa. I'm just moving forward." But I knew better. I'd seen this story before, you see. Pride is a slow poison. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and warnings. It seeps in quietly, disguising itself as ambition, sophistication, or, God help us, moving forward. The week before the wedding, Margaret did something I could hardly believe. She hired a personal shopper to take her mother shopping, not as a gift, mind you, but as a mission to fix Helen. She gave the shopper strict instructions about what was acceptable for her mother to wear. Helen came to see me afterward, tears in her eyes. "Papa," she said. She still called me Papa. "I don't recognize my own daughter anymore. It's as though I'm an embarrassment to her. As though everything I did, everything I gave, meant nothing." I held her hand and told her to be patient, that sometimes people lose their way but find it again. But in my heart, I knew something had to be done. I just didn't know what. Not yet. The wedding day arrived bright and beautiful, one of those perfect spring mornings that feels like a gift from heaven itself. The ballroom was magnificent, I must admit. Flowers everywhere, crystal chandeliers, tables set with china so fine you could see through it. I arrived early and found Helen in a small room off the main hall. She looked lovely, nervous but lovely, in a simple, elegant dress. Nothing flashy, but dignified and appropriate. She was trying to help with last-minute details, offering to steam a bridesmaid's dress, to pin a corsage, to do anything useful. Then, Margaret arrived for her final preparations. She swept into the bridal suite like a queen entering her throne room, surrounded by bridesmaids and makeup artists and photographers. When she saw her mother standing there, something flickered across her face. Not love, not gratitude, something cold and calculating. "Mother," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "What are you doing here? The ceremony doesn't start for 2 hours. Guests aren't supposed to be in the bridal area." Helen's face flushed. I just wanted to see if you needed any help, sweetheart. It's your big day, and I thought—" "I have professionals handling everything," Margaret interrupted, gesturing to the small army of vendors surrounding her. "I don't need amateur help." The word hung in the air like poison. Amateur. I watched my daughter's face crumble slightly, but she held her composure. "Of course, dear," Helen said softly. "I'll just go take my seat then." But Margaret wasn't finished. And what happened next, I will never forget as long as I draw breath. As Helen turned to leave, Margaret called out, "Oh, Mother, one more thing." Her voice had that saccharine sweetness that always precedes cruelty. "Richard's family will be sitting in the front rows, of course. I've arranged for you to sit in the back, row 15, I believe, near your church friends. You'll be more comfortable there, with people more suited to your background." The room went silent. Even the chattering bridesmaids stopped mid-sentence. The photographers lowered their cameras. One of the makeup artists gasped quietly. Helen stood frozen, her hand on the doorknob. "The back?" she whispered. "Margaret, I'm your mother. I raised you. I thought—" "You thought what, Mother?" Margaret's voice had turned ice cold now, the mask slipping completely. "That you'd sit up front in your discount dress next to Richard's mother in her Chanel suit? That you'd be photographed alongside people who summer in the Hamptons? I'm trying to protect you from embarrassment. You should thank me." Tears began streaming down Helen's face. "I worked 3 jobs so you could go to college," she said, her voice breaking. "I gave you everything I had. I went without so you could have. And this is how you repay me? By hiding me in the back like I'm something shameful?" "Don't be dramatic," Margaret said, turning back to her mirror. "You're still invited, aren't you? Some mothers don't even get that. Now please go. You're creating a scene, and I need to focus on my makeup." I had been standing in the hallway just outside the door the whole time. I'd come to give Margaret her grandmother's pearl necklace, a family heirloom passed down through generations. But after what I'd just witnessed, my hands trembled with something I rarely felt: righteous anger. I stepped into that bridal suite and every eye turned to me. "Margaret," I said, my voice quiet but firm as iron. "I need to speak with you, now, alone. Grandpa, I'm in the middle of now." The tone of my voice left no room for argument. The bridesmaids scurried out like mice. The vendors found sudden urgent business elsewhere. Within moments, it was just Margaret and me, standing in that expensive room surrounded by flowers and silk, and all the trappings of a day that was supposed to be about love. "What you just did to your mother," I began, "was one of the cruelest things I've ever witnessed in my 78 years on this earth.